Ah, there you are, ghoulies, and here we are on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Milwaukee. I'm joined by the lovely Lilith Lovecraft, and how appropriate since we are now kicking off the Summer of Lovecraft event on Crimson Theater.
How exciting.
It is exciting with a wealth of great Lovecraft films, or at least what they could do with what they had to work with.
Yes.
Then towards the end of the Roger Corman period in horror films and directing, he turned his sights to Lovecraft, starting, I believe, with The Haunted Palace, Die Monster Die, which is actually an interpretation of The Color from Space. I don't know why that name rings a bell for some reason. Starring Boris Karloff in a very good, it's a very good version, I think. It captures some of the essence of what Lovecraft was all about. But this one is very, very unique. Probably the most unique one of Roger Corman's films. No Vincent Price, no Boris Karloff, but a very young Dean Stockwell and Sandra Dee that pull off something I don't think those other actors really could have done.
No.
And Dean Stockwell in a great performance here, which Shirley, Shirley was looked at by Johnny Depp.
Yes.
Don't you agree after seeing this film that...
he had to take a lot of inspiration.
And, well, it's always good to take inspiration from good sources here. And it's just an incredible film considering what they had to work with and what they had to interpret. And there's a lot of deviations from the book, ghoulies. So if you're a hardcore reader of Lovecraft, please don't get too upset over things because, face it, their book can never be like the movie. The movie just puts everything out there for you and does all the work, where with a good book you have to use your imagination, and Lovecraft was full of that. Definitely an interesting character from the beginning, well, his stories unfortunately were just published in Weird Science and pulp magazines in the beginning. Surely he was way beyond that, and who knows what he would have thought of these interpretations of his films. Certainly Nick Adams is not one with the Lovecraft type of dialogue in Die Monster Die, but this one is definitely a lot of fun. And like I said, you might see a lot of little nuances from Dean Stockwell that Johnny Depp picked up on, you know. Very, very interesting. Now, we recently finished up celebrating our Orson Welles celebration, and Welles is another one that I think that Johnny Depp paid attention to, and there's a really important scene in Citizen Kane where he's basically getting rid of and telling off the former editor-in-chief of his chronicle, the paper, or the Inquirer, that's what it was called, the Inquirer. And he basically, you know, he's telling him off and standing his ground, and just as the guy walks off, Orson Welles does this kind of a pout thing. And I've noticed Johnny Depp do that, especially in the movie Ed Wood and probably other ones. Probably the pirate movies, too, because he rolls them all together in there. So just interesting. I would say a good actor would follow another great actor and try to use every bit of that. It's all about stealing from other artists. We would know nothing about that on Crimson Theater, of course.
No,
absolutely not. But this one's a lot of fun. Take some liberties. Love the score by Les Baxter in the beginning.
Yes.
And American International Pictures did a lot of stuff with like animated beginnings in the beginnings of their movies, and this one's no exception. It's quite interesting. Get right into it now. H.P. Lovecraft's The Dunwich Horror on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Milwaukee. Any direction there? Okay.
I don't know where you want to start in on the Dunwich.
On Dunwich?
Yeah.
Let's come in right after Sandra Dee's first trippy hallucination experience. A little more tea. Would you like to finish your tea? Finish your tea.
Finish the tea.
I thought you lived here alone. No.
Finish your tea. I love that. Oh.
I should get going. Finish your tea. Then she drinks enough and he's like, oh, okay.
Got you now.
Oh, there you are, ghoulies, and we're back in the middle of the Dunwich Horror and Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater, Milwaukee. Waiter, I ordered the acid-free tea. Okay? Don't get it wrong again. Wow, poor Sandra D. She's getting suckered in here quick, huh?
Yeah.
The eyes weren't enough. He needed a little something extra to persuade poor Sandra D. here.
Finish your tea.
Finish your tea. Yes, you should always finish your tea if you're Sandra D. The beginning of this movie is just, well, it's amazing and hilarious at the same time that the original copy of the Necromonicon is so readily available.
Yes.
And the other copy is mentioned too, but what happened to that copy?
They never do explain what happened to it.
I guess they were hoping for a sequel, perhaps. But Wilbur Whatley obtains the some reading there, and then of course Ed Begley jumps in there, takes it away from him, and that's quite an interesting handshake between the two. Once he figures out that is Wilbur Whatley.
Yes.
And then Sandra D and her friend comes up and he does that step away. That was just perfect.
Oh, yes.
That was just perfect. And then I particularly like the music during that bar scene where the professor suggests that they might learn more from each other. You have to wonder there, why would the professor be so interested in the Necromonicon without being equally as foreboding about it as Mr. Wilbur?
There must be a story behind that one.
I'm sure there's a story behind a story. And, well, we're just getting along here. Sandra D has just had her experience after she finished her tea. You should always finish your tea when you're at the Whatley house.
Always.
Crazy old cantankerous grandpa doesn't want nothing to happen, even though he apparently did the same thing himself and is responsible for Wilbur and, of course, Wilbur's brother, which was loosely shown so far as we go in the movie. We don't want to blow it for you. I'm sure there's a lot of ghoulies out there that have never seen this film.
That's just too bad.
That is too bad.
Finally they get the chance.
Finally they get the chance in Crimson Theater for our very special Summer of Lovecraft episodes. More to come on the H.P. Lovecraft subject, and perhaps we'll have to dive into the Call of Cthulhu. Now, that's a movie that really deserves a big budget.
Yes.
But they did a good job with that silent version that we highly recommend. The H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society has put that together, the Call of Cthulhu and the Whisper in the Darkness, and are working on some kind of musical venture with Bruce Kulick, former guitar player Kiss. I think I just puked in my mouth. But that was rough. He was kind of a goon at Days of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I met him before. I'm sure he didn't remember me. But what are you going to do? That leads to a very bad Kiss story, if anyone's got the time to...
Oh, yeah.
Really, I don't know if you're a Kiss fan or not.
Not a huge Kiss fan, but always up for a
well,
story.
Gene Simmons. The subject of Gene Simmons usually doesn't end well, does it?
No,
he seems to be quite a Richard Cranium is a good way to put it. Richard Cranium's a friend of mine, but if you read between the lines on that one, it describes Mr. Simmons quite well. Bruce Kulick, who I just mentioned, did an in-store appearance in Kenosha.
Really?
Yes, he did at a record store, and I wasn't impressed, to say the least. But there was a couple young kids that had won Backstage to Kiss at Alpine Valley. This is during their no-makeup routine with some Sphinx or something like that on the stage with them. I wasn't impressed. But I thought, I had my 2 minutes of Kiss fandom when I was, before they even made Destroyer was like what we call the new Kiss. So I thought that it's interesting enough. Anyway, these two kids couldn't get a ride to go to Alpine Valley, so the owner of the music store said that he indeed would give me the same privilege if I took them. So I took them up to Alpine Valley. We waited in line. I didn't think we were going to get in to see the concert. We had grass seats. So I surely didn't think we were going to end up really getting backstage, but we did indeed. And waited in line for Gene Simmons, which was not very long. We walked right up to him. All he had to do was just sign this kid, say hi, 2 minutes. He turned away from us like we weren't even there and walked away. The kids were devastated.
Oh.
They were, and then he proceeded to try to stick his tongue down some chick's throat.
Oh.
And, well, what can one say? she was not the type that Gene Simmons brags about, and she didn't want any part of it. And so these kids we were just, they were just devastated, and I was like, you're a goon for life for that one.
Yeah, that's
you know, and I don't really like his antics, what he's had to say publicly about things here and there. Mr. Never did drugs. Yeah, well, I don't know.
Not sure I buy that.
I'm not really a fan of his show or his music or, you know, it was one of them flash in the pans. You know, they saw the New York Dolls, and you know, that's what motivated them.
They thought they could run with it.
They did run with it.
Well, they did, obviously, yes.
Yeah, the New York Dolls. I bet you half the audience, more than half, don't even know who I'm talking about, unfortunately. But that's the way of the world, you know. And, yeah, how do we get on the subject of Mr. Simmons? I don't know. Disappointments. Disappointments. Are there disappointments in the Watley house? Well, you're just going to have to find out, because you're going to get right back into it now. The Dunwich Horror on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater. All right, ghoulies, I hope you're enjoying the Dunwich Horror as much as I am.
Well, you know, it's actually Dunwich, not Dunwich.
Really? You mean they pronounced it wrong throughout the whole movie?
Everyone in the film actually pronounces it incorrectly to create that atmosphere of the witchcraft and the darker
the witchcraft. You know, I think this probably came out around the time of The Exorcist. So they were in Rosemary's Baby, where there seemed to be this sort of interest in Satanism. But I don't know, Cthulhu kind of makes Satan look pretty babyish by comparison.
Definitely. Definitely.
The Devil's Hop Yard. At least that's what they call it in this movie.
Yes.
I like that. How there's just this great shrine that's just, no one knows how long it's been here.
Oh, forever.
It's been there forever, of course.
Since the old ones.
Since the old ones walked the earth. Anyway, here we are. Interesting scene where, Wilbur gets Sandra Dee on the slab quite gracefully, and shows off a bunch of really interesting tattoos. For some reason, the one that strikes me is the boat propeller. That's just kind of
random.
That's very random. But why does that stick out? And I can't remember any of the other ones so well.
Yeah.
Not that I want to stare at a man's torso tattooed or not, but I don't know. That's a really bizarre point of the movie. And
it is, yes.
Just been interesting all along. I don't think they probably, in true American International Pictures form, I don't think they had a lot of time on this either.
No.
So he's really Dean Stockwell's really given a great performance here, considering, again, that I don't think they had a lot of time to spend on this movie.
Yes.
So that's when you've got a great actor that can do those things. So in a way, I'd say he is somewhat worthy of Vincent Price.
Oh.
It would have been interesting to see those two in a movie together.
That would have been something to see.
Now, I wonder if there's any commentary on Vincent Price, on Dean Stockwell, because he certainly had enough to say about other actors. One, he didn't like Lon Chaney Jr.
No.
And he certainly didn't like the guy that was, oh my God, I can't believe it. The vampire. Come on, help me out here, Nick. You working on it? Quail or, that's terrible. I can't remember his name.
No.
Brain fart on Crimson Theater. Imagine that.
So
well, he hated the other guy so bad that it was terrible. So it's interesting to know if what he would have thought of Dean Stockwell.
Yes, definitely. Especially in this appearance.
Yes. I think he would have liked it.
I hope so.
And the music is quite interesting. It has that. It really does have that. There's a certain 70s feel, and that's something that came off too with the colors in the movie, with the orange and the greens, and even if you think about it, the music from this movie just sounds a little bit like The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I'm talking about the scene where Snoopy thinks he's in World War II and sneaks off with all those watercolor backgrounds that are in the. You know what I'm talking about? That music has a similarity, even though Charlie Brown predates that.
Yes.
Very interesting stuff, though. This really captures a certain point in history. And we were off camera. We were talking about Billy Jack and whatnot. I had interviewed Tom Laughlin, and there is well, what would now be called a prequel, except this movie actually was made before Billy Jack with the Billy Jack character called the Born Losers. And I'm willing to bet the Born Losers sequences with Tom Laughlin probably were being shot at the same time as the Knight's movie. It's the same location.
Yeah.
The cliffs with the water and the whole thing. Very much similar. So, yeah, I have the feeling that this is one of those productions that it moved quickly.
Yes.
Very quickly. So. And that's the testament of a great actor. And, of course, Ed Begley had won Oscars. So, and Sandra Dee was well, she's been around a little bit for movies before this one.
No small name.
This is probably the end. It might, but she died young, didn't she?
She did.
I believe she did. That's a shame. That's really a shame. Now, as far as I know, Dean Stockwell is still alive.
Yes. And
I'd like to track him down for an interview. We are currently working and negotiating to bring back the Big Talk radio broadcast to the airwaves, because that was a blast. You could get people on the airwaves that you can't get on television.
Yes.
But we did invite Scott Walker into the studio, as long as we're on the subject of true evil, like Lovecraft. I wonder if Scott Walker is a Lovecraft fan.
I doubt it, but I would like to hope so.
Maybe there's get some not much hope on that subject currently. But there was an interesting picture floating around on Facebook. Did you see that?
No.
Looked like it could have been a college frat house party, and that Mr. Walker just came from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. As far as what he was wearing. You didn't see that?
No.
You would have noticed it, trust me.
I want
some
to see
interesting
this.
Symbolisms too. He was sprawled out sort of on a flag.
Oh.
And cheeks were sticking out of the undergarments. And well, it could have been photoshopped,
Oh, yeah.
But it looked like the carpets matched the drapes to me. So get right back into it now. That's right. The what? The title of the film, proper saying?
Dunwich Horror.
All right, see? There we go. We got it right. We'll let you handle that at the end then. All right, get back to the exciting conclusion of this movie. All right, I hope you liked that one there. The exciting conclusion. Not that exciting conclusion, maybe. It depends on how you look at it. It's been a fun ride. Definitely one of those movies that sort of the first part is stronger than the end.
Oh, definitely.
That's kind of very true of Dracula with Bela Lugosi, too. The first part of the movie, and the end has to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Wrap it up. And another great film. Blockbuster, incredibly, I think it was Jaws that created the summer blockbuster.
Yeah.
So, fantastic movie, and for two reasons. First reason is the stupid rubber shark didn't work. So you have to have the camera like it's the shark's point of view.
Yeah.
That was brilliant, but not intended. We would have saw a lot more of that rubber shark, and I don't know if that would have really worked so well, because it was a mechanical. It was better not to see a lot of it in the long run.
Yeah.
You had to use your imagination. Really built that film incredibly. The other thing, which is true of tonight's movie, true of a lot of the Roger Corman films, true of the show Star Trek, is you had 3 top-notch actors in Jaws on that boat. And I think it all kind of culminated and peaked when they're drunk, showing their wounds to each other and whatnot, just before the shark starts, pounding on the ship. And they've always said one of the worst things you could possibly do is shoot a movie on water. Obviously, the Pirates of the Caribbean didn't have to worry about this because they had CGI.
Yeah.
But with Jaws, they had a film on the water. There was all kinds of production problems. The actors didn't even think the movie was going to get released.
Yes.
I'm kind of getting that feeling myself. That's another subject. They were really worried about if it was going to get released, if it was ever going to make it. And the magic came together, and it indeed was revolutionary.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It was everything. It was the kind of movie that you just don't see now, because everything was all about sharks. Everyone was selling their Jaws. There must have been a shark holocaust after that movie was made for the products, just their Jaws, the the T-shirts, everything was about the shark. I've never seen such, you know, something so phenomenal since.
Fandom's still strong.
Yep. I wish that the new Godzilla, I was hoping that would create something like that. Yeah. Jurassic Park did for a little bit for dinosaurs, but nothing has equaled Jaws that in my lifetime that I've seen as far as movie sensationalism. But pretty much after that scene of them drinking and showing their tattoos and wounds and whatnot, well, then that's when the movie starts to kind of unwind a little bit, I think. I mean, then it's, no, it's still very good right up to the end. And, of course, the scene where the shark chomps Quint, the sea captain, the first time around, that really blows your mind. Yeah. And the whole movie's blowing your mind already. So it's just like you've done so much in the first half that you're just going to accept everything as greatness for the end. Yeah. Now, having watched the film countless times and with a more of a directorial point of view than I had when I first saw it, I think that it finally just gets to the point where, okay, something's got to happen, which means the sharks just got to jump into the boat. Now, at that point, where's the shotgun to the head? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Where was the, you know, the guy had the gun. He's shooting the shark through the whole movie. Maybe he ran out of bullets, but, you know, I can see they had to move the plot ahead. Yeah. And that was a great, just have the shark jump on the boat and eat the captain. And that it just seems to me now, when I watch it, it's just like, oh, okay, here it comes. The movie's got to end. All right, we needed to, something's got to happen. And that's what they did. I don't know. Maybe some hardcore Jaws fans are out to correct me if I'm wrong. Now we have things like Sharknado and totally just made for MST 3000, you know? Yeah. And of course, none of the Jaws sequels worked either. No. No. Well, they couldn't, they lost the actors, you know? I mean, without that chemistry and just that rivalry, hatred between Richard Dreyfuss and Sean. Why I can't remember a single actor's name anymore. The guy who played Quint. Help me out. Robert Shaw. God. Wow, what's wrong? Maybe, I don't know. The long ride up to Milwaukee is doing it to me. Must have. I had a great time up on my ride to Milwaukee today.
Well, that's good.
Yes, vengeance was served. Because my past couple rides in the hearse up to Milwaukee, you think that people would respect seeing a hearse, but just everyone, I had 3 trucks in every lane right on my rear end in the hearse, you know? I mean, you go through Racine, 65 miles an hour is regarded as scripture. Yes. Don't go 1 mile over the limit or you're getting a ticket, a big fat one too. Racine just loves to do that. Yes. So I'm like, I've had it. I've had 2 nerve-wracking rides up here, except for today. Today's was very different because here I am, I'm cruising down the road, and we're coming to Racine where they come down to just 2 lanes. And I know we're coming to 2 lanes. But the guy riding my tail, literally 4 feet from the rear end of my car, he doesn't know this. He's got Illinois plates. He's got a big truck and a trailer. So I'm like, okay, whatever. Suddenly, he's not watching the signs because it says the right lane's going to disappear. So the guy tries to pass me in the right lane. Then he's trying to, you know, he's way bigger than me. So then he knows he's got to get back. And he's trying to cut me, literally trying to push me off the road. And I just wouldn't give in. I stood my ground. And he had to stop. You know, it was really a dangerous situation because I wasn't gonna. I was like, she's trying to pull in. I blew my horn. I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna give. So if you want to hit me, you're gonna be the one that hit me. And he backed down. You know, these guys in the pickup, they get a pickup truck and they think like they're the man of the world or something like that. Well, then we finally got through it all, and then he passed me on the right lane, and I just happened to look over, which I often do, and usually I'll just give him a look, like, you know, he was like this, you know, because he lost the manly man war with the hearse. Of course. If you're really lucky, I'll do this one when you drive by. You really got to be old school to know what that means. Slow down a little bit, God. Yes, the ride to do Crimson Theater Milwaukee is far more horrifying than most of the shows.
I'd agree.
You Milwaukee people wouldn't know anything about that because none of you seem to have cars or drive.
I guess
you notice that?
They just walk everywhere.
I'm being funny. That's very common in big cities, especially Chicago.
Yes.
Where they all, and you think that they're worldly because they live in a big city, but really they're just kind of stranded in an 8-block radius that they walk and take buses to.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Maybe that's an advantage to nowhere. Nah, there's no advantages.
No. No.
Punks on the Pier's coming up.
Ooh, that is an advantage.
That's always a blast. Well, we do have a good punk scene. Lots of shows coming up. Make sure you check out Facebook page Crimson Theater Milwaukee on Facebook. Like the page. It'll keep you up to date on what's going on. And there's always something going on. So you have a horrifying week. We'll see you next time on Dr. Destruction's Crimson Theater Milwaukee when the summer of Lovecraft continues.